You good?
I'm
Ready?
good, yeah.
Ready?
Sending the links, yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, good evening. On behalf of the Clermont County Chamber of Commerce, thank you for tuning into our second 2021 candidate forum. This evening, we're happy to host the 3 candidates running for Municipal Court Clerk. Now, this race is a little different since it will be the only contested countywide race on your ballots this November, meaning every voter in the county will be deciding which of these 3 candidates will be our next municipal court clerk of courts. Sorry. My name is Andrew McAfee, and I am the Director of Government Affairs here at the Clermont Chamber of Commerce. I'm joined tonight by my colleague, Heather Fry, who is our Director of Development here at the Chamber. Also pleased to be partnering tonight with the Clermont Sun, and with us moderating tonight is Brett Millam, the editor of the Clermont Sun. Brett, you have anything you want to say to kick us off?
Well, I just want to thank the Chamber again for hosting this. They did such a professional job last week with the Union Township Candidate Forum. And I'm very excited to have the candidates here tonight, particularly for the courts, because I feel like that's kind of an area of elections that doesn't get a lot of attention. So I'm excited to dig into that tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Brett. The mission here at the Chamber is very simple: to transform Clermont County to be the world's preferred place to locate, operate, and grow a successful business. In order to achieve this, it is vital that our almost 700 business members and their thousands of employees know where their current and prospective elected officials stand on issues impacting our community. That is why we're here today, to educate, to inform our members and the community about where these candidates stand on important issues and what plans they have to improve our community. The rules tonight are pretty simple. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to provide an opening statement. Selection of the order of their opening statement will be alphabetical by last name. Questions have been solicited from the community and from members of the Chamber of Commerce in advance and will be directed towards specific candidates. Some questions will be asked of all candidates, and each candidate will be given 2 minutes to respond to each question. There will be a 30-second rebuttal time available if a specific candidate is mentioned in another candidate's response. Before a candidate has provided his answer to a specific question, any of the remaining candidates may request the opportunity to address the same question and will be given 1 minute to do so. The moderators tonight will have the responsibility of enforcing these rules, keeping order, and keeping the discussion focused on the current election issues. Heather will be our timekeeper. She will hold up a red folder when a candidate has half of his time left, and a blue folder when a candidate has 15 seconds left. At the end of the forum, each candidate will be given 2 minutes to provide a closing statement in reverse alphabetical order. So with that, we will get started with our opening statements. And Mr. Camphouse, will you start us off?
I will. I'd like to start by thanking the Chamber for hosting and the Clermont Sun as well. Not knowing what to expect out of the questions, I'll just like to hit my bio real quick. My name is Paul Camphouse. I'm a candidate for the Municipal Clerk of Courts. Raised in Clermont County. I live in Pierce Township with my wife. We raised our 2 boys, Sean and Lucas, out of there. Graduated from Nicholas High School. After high school, went to Des Moines, Iowa, to Drake University, where I got my bachelor's degree and a master's degree in public administration. While I was out in Iowa, I managed a family-owned video store. So that dates me. There's no video stores left anymore. But the owner of that store was a Des Moines City cop, and we would talk about serving the community and law enforcement, and my talents, and what I could bring to it. And I really decided that I was going to come back to Clermont County, serve the citizens there. Came back, put myself through the police academy. Sheriff Van Camp hired me in 1994 at the Clermont County Sheriff's Office. I had the honor to serve the citizens of Clermont County for 27 years at the Clermont County Sheriff's Office. I was promoted through the ranks during my time there, ultimately to the command staff. I was the captain in charge of the administrative staff at first. When Sheriff Leahy took office, I was transferred over to the patrol division. I was in charge of the patrol division when I retired in July to run for this office. Part of my responsibilities were warrants and civil sections. So I dealt directly with the courts my entire career, and just decided that the second part of my life was to try and make a difference over in the court system, and that's what I'm running for. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Rudd?
Hi, I'm Tim Rudd. I'm the clerk of the Clermont County Municipal Court, and I'm running for re-election to that position. I'd like to hit on the highlights of the accomplishments of my last term. I implemented a contract with the Attorney General for collections, and the Attorney General has collected over $2.25 million in unpaid fines and costs for the Clermont County Municipal Court at no cost to the county. I implemented credit card payments. You can now pay your fines and costs, credit cards, either over the counter or online. I was a pilot for e-ticketing at the request of the Ohio Department of Public Safety and the Ohio State Patrol. And now you can now view over 95% of all court documents online publicly on my public website. The major challenge moving forward for the court system is the implementation of the new case management system. I implemented the current case system in 1996. I oversaw the implementation of CourtView at Clermont Municipal Court. It was the largest municipal court at that point in time, which had not been computerized in the state of Ohio. It was also the pilot for CourtView. It made for a long, hot summer of 10 to 12-hour days, but I learned a lot from that experience, and the court is ready to now implement a new case management system, and I want to bring the experience and the knowledge that I learned from that in implementing the new case management system. I have the knowledge and experience to run the job efficiently, effectively, and economically, and that's why I'm running for re-election to clerk in the municipal court.
Thank you. Mr. Velardo?
Well, good evening, and I personally would like to thank the Clermont Chamber here tonight and the Clermont Sun, Brett, for hosting tonight's forum. And before we went on air, Brett made a comment that it's exciting that we're actually talking about the clerk's office, because that's something that's usually not discussed in an open forum. So again, thank you for that opportunity. My name is Ralph Velardo, and I'm running for Clermont County Municipal Clerk of Courts office also. I've been a lifelong resident of Clermont County. I'm actually a fourth generation Clermont County on my mother's side. Most of my family was born and raised up in the Owensville, Stone Lake area before presently residing in Milford. My wife Amy and I have 4 children, 2 girls who are Ohio area graduates, one from Ohio University and one from now the University of Cincinnati. Go Bearcats. And then we have a junior who is at the University of Kentucky. They are proud to have a son who's serving in the Marines. I have strong desire to serve, which led me to my career as a firefighter paramedic for 31 years, serving the citizens in the Miami Township, Milford area. I've twice been elected to Milford City Council, served as mayor. During that time, as mayor, we balanced the budget, provided all the needs that we needed to do, never raised taxes, and all this occurred during our last economic downturn. I have a strong business background, where I spent over 10 years managing and eventually general manager of the Beach Water Park, where I oversaw a $5 million renovation budget, had 500 seasonal employees, oversaw the implementation of a new computer system. I have the qualifications to be the next clerk of courts. So ultimately tonight, I hope the citizens of this Clermont County will understand that they should vote for Velardo on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph. First question is going to be a group question for all of you. And this one will start with you, Mr. Rudd. What one personal characteristic do you think makes a good clerk?
Personal characteristic, that the most important thing in dealing with any elected position is you have to bring a certain honesty, you have to bring a certain integrity, you have to be willing to work hard, and you have to be willing to get the job done. And the biggest thing is actually having an excellent relationship with the court itself. The clerk cannot be effective without having a good relationship with the court, which means with the judges. I faced the decision last fall on whether or not to run for re-election. And it was actually the 3 judges who came to me and very actively encouraged me to run again. And I think that speaks to my reputation of honesty, integrity, willing to work hard and getting the job done. As I mentioned, just those 4 accomplishments that I did over this past term, it speaks to those qualities. But the number one thing in being an excellent clerk is to have an excellent relationship with the court itself.
Mr. Velardo,
Will you, that question again?
what one personal characteristic do you think makes a good clerk?
I believe accessibility, which is part of my campaign, is to be accessible. To be accessible, not just to the judges, but also to the community that they serve, the municipalities, the police officers, the lawyers, bondsmen, everyone who uses the clerk's office needs to be accessible. And no matter when that time is, we live in a very dynamic time where it's 24/7 operations, not just Monday through Friday. So to me, one of the biggest personal traits that I have is being accessible. As the mayor of Milford, I had the opportunity to meet the needs of the community and be accessible whenever a question arose or whatever problem. Now, I agree that you need to have a great working relationship with the judges, but you also need to be accessible to the rest of the community that have needs for the clerk's office.
Thank you. Mr. Camphouse?
So I agree completely with Tim. You know, as a public servant, the 3 characteristics that you have to have are honesty, integrity, and transparency. I mean, the criminal justice system is designed so that the people know what's going on in the courts. People know what decisions the judges are making. People know, you know, who's being held responsible for what actions. So as the clerk is the administrative arm of that court, you know, it's important to get all of those public records out to, excuse me, any and all the people that want to see it. So I think, you know, my approach is as a public servant to make sure that that clerk's office is serving the citizens and the defendants and the people that it's meant to serve.
Excellent. Brett?
This next question is an individual question for Mr. Velardo, and it comes from a chamber member. What office policy or procedure would you change on day 1? And what realistically would you hope to change within the first 90 days? Because I know you've talked about a 90-day plan.
Yeah, I've talked about a 90-day plan, and a lot of that has dealt with, which I've already started. Originally, when my 90-day plan, I was going to ground running, but as I've been campaigning, I've been talking to what I call the shareholders of the clerk's office. So everyone who uses the clerk's office, whether it be the police officers, whether it be the lawyers, whether it be the bondsmen, all the customers of the clerk's office and what their needs are. And one of those is the fact, as I stated initially, is the accessibility, but also the continuation of the modernization, the access, and implementing that we are on the forefront, that we are ahead of the game. It was talked about accepting credit cards initially. That is something that I felt should have been done long before, just most recently. So those are things that I will make sure continue to happen. I think he's got a great staff of people in there. So we will work with the staff that we have, ensuring that we have the best practices, that we are providing the services for the residents of Clermont County. Clermont County is the 14th largest county in Ohio. Now, if you look through a lot of the other counties, they're ahead of us in a lot of cases, whether it's the modernization, records retention, which I'll talk about more later on. So ensuring that we are archiving our records in an appropriate manner and having the records available to those who use the clerk's office. So the 90-day plan will be implemented on day 1, and we will continue to work through that. It won't stop after 90 days. It's a 6-year term, so it will continue to be modernized, accessible, and accountable throughout my time.
My turn. You guys ready? Mr. Camphouse. Being a former sheriff deputy, you've dealt with the clerk's office in a professional capacity. Can you name one thing the office does right and one thing they can improve
So the work product that's coming out of the clerk's office is not the issue. I think I've never heard that, cases are getting dismissed because the clerk's not docketing something correctly or they're not processing something in a timely manner. So I think they do that very well. What my number one concern in being on the receiving end of the services that we have been receiving as law enforcement is the diminishing service that we've been receiving. So we're now having to cover our own notarization of after hours when we file charges. Police supervisors are having to review paperwork, notarize paperwork, and then have to take it over during the normal business hours. So it is my intention to reopen the office 24/7 to give law enforcement accessibility to the office of, to the courts, I should say, because it's the court's records. It's not law enforcement records, it's the court record. So the clerk is the keeper of that record, and they need to be open and available to access the records in addition to filing the charges there.
Mr. Rudd, this question came from a chamber member. What has been your biggest accomplishment since you were first elected clerk? And what would you say has been your biggest setback or disappointment?
It sort of limits me when it says accomplishment since I was elected clerk, because I actually think that the biggest accomplishment was prior to being elected clerk, and that was as the assistant clerk when I oversaw the computerization of municipal court. And like I said, municipal court at that point was dealing with a manual docket with 21 column ledger sheet. We were the pilot for court view. It crashed within 2 weeks. Working directly with the programmers and the vendors for 10 to 12 hours a day, we got up and running. Biggest accomplishment since I've been clerk, to tell you the truth, this past term, with the AG collections bringing in $2.25 million, the credit cards, under the code, the clerk himself cannot go out and pick a credit card vendor. He has to participate in the RFP procedure of the Board of Commissioners. So it's not like I could go out and sign a contract. The board did an RFP in 2019. I watched as the treasurer came up in 2020. And then I started negotiations with MSB last fall of 2020. And we got credit cards up and running this year. This past term has actually been one of the ones where we've actually pushed the edge forward. And going back to credit cards, the Supreme Court just did a survey that over 50% of the courts are still not accepting credit cards. We are there on the leading edge of technology. And when we bring in the new case management system, we'll be right there on the bleeding edge with the ones that we're looking at.
Excellent.
This next one is a group question, and it comes from a member of the community. Does Clermont County need 2 clerks? And this goes to Mr. Camphouse first.
So this was also a League of Women's Voters question. So I read through all the statutes. If you haven't read through Ohio Revised Code, it's statutorily defined how a municipal court is set up. The Clermont County Municipal Court is mentioned at least 3 separate times in the statute. The clerk of that court is also mentioned in the statute how the legislature wanted it to be set up. In a territory of over 100,000 people, it is to be held by election, nonpartisan way, just like the judges of that municipal court. Any territory under 100,000 is appointed by the courts. There are notable exceptions. Most obvious is Hamilton County. Hamilton County has 1 clerk, but that's an exception to the rule. There are several exceptions to the rule that are spelled out by county. A lot of it has to do by nonpartisan to a partisan way to have a primary run for some of these clerks that are elected. But as a standard, there's 59 full-time municipal courts in the state of Ohio. So the legislature says that's the way it should be done. In Clermont County, that's the way it's done. The common pleas clerk is set up by the Constitution. So in 1802 or whatever it was, they set the original clerks, but when you go to a municipal court system, the legislature define how it should be done.
Thank you. Mr. Rudd?
Yeah, Paul's correct. The Ohio Revised Code will make your head spin. The code section for the clerk is 1901-31, and what it states, as Paul has said, that if the jurisdiction of the municipal court is 100,000 or greater, it is to have an elected clerk. There's a handful of exceptions in there. And if you go through the exceptions, some of those are actually over 100,000. I believe one or two, I know they used to be when the exception was taken out for Clermont County was actually under 100,000. That's one of the reasons the code can make your head spin. So the quick and easy answer is that the Ohio Revised Code requires 2 clerks when the population is over 100,000. What happened was in 2003, then Clerk of Courts, David Cottle, along with the municipal court judges, Judge Shriver, Judge Herman, and Judge Haddad, approached the Board of Commissioners, Clermont County Board of Commissioners, and asked them to pass a resolution in support of removing the exception from the Ohio Revised Code. They passed that resolution. It was taken up to the General Assembly. Both houses passed it, and the governor signed it. And what I'd like to say is they removed an exception. So they made Clermont County more in line with what the code was meant to. Having multiple clerks is not that unusual. Warren County has 3 munis in a county. Butler County has 6 municipal clerks. Cuyahoga, I believe, has 13 municipal clerks. So having multiple clerks in the county is not unusual.
Thank you. Mr. Velarde?
Well, I agree with both of them. Having read that statute and going through it, I understand that right now the law states that we have 2 clerks, muni and common pleas. However, I do believe once elected that you could work with the legislators and analyze that and determine if it can effectively and efficiently be done with 1 clerk, like say Hamilton County and other counties that are much larger than Clermont County operate. So again, legislatively right now, we have 2 clerks, the muni and the common pleas, and obviously we will abide and follow the law. But I get asked that question a lot, and I say that would take a change in legislation. So that would be a top to bottom review, which I think can be done and would serve the citizens of Clermont County. Clermont County is growing, but there are much larger entities that operate under a 1 clerk system and do it effectively and efficiently and still save taxpayers dollars.
Thank you. Heather?
Okay. My question is for you, Mr. Rudd. A chamber member submitted this. Recently, the clerk's office announced that it will now accept credit cards. Do you believe the office has kept up with technology, and how will it continue to do so if you're reelected?
Yes. And once again, I'm not trying to sound repetitive, but under Ohio Revised Code 301.28, it specifically states that the clerk of a municipal court has to participate in an RFP either by the county treasurer or the county commissioner. In other words, I cannot go out and sign my own contract for credit cards. If I could go out and sign my own contract for credit cards, my case management vendor would have had me up and running on it years ago. The commissioners went out for an RFP for credit cards in 2019. They chose 2 vendors. The treasurer decided to go with NSB because it was at no cost to the county, even for the equipment. I chose to go with NSB after talking to Jeannie Zermely and her staff. I even got NSB to pay for an interface with Courtview at the cost of $15,000. As far as keeping up, that is what, when I referred to earlier, that we are looking at a new case management system. The systems that we are looking at will bring with them e-filing. Right now, my clerks have to click through multiple windows to get their jobs done. Under these new systems, you basically do all of your work on 1 window. We are looking at systems that sort of like when we first went live with Courtview 25 years ago that are going to put us on the bleeding edge of technology. I hope it just wasn't be as painful as it was in '96.
Thank you. Mr. Velardo, you've spent your career in both the public and private sector, but mostly outside of the legal system. So how have you prepared to successfully manage the clerk's office?
I have spent my life's work of serving the communities and also coupled that with the business background. And I really feel, as I said in my opening statement, that the clerk's office needs an outside perspective. I have extensive experience managing people, managing budgets, managing systems, case management systems would not be foreign. I instituted and was part of a gigantic overhaul for when I took over the water part of managing a new point of sale system, inventory control system, reporting systems, budget systems, all those type of systems that using that experience would be relevant with instituting a new case management system, and also my customer service background of ensuring that the needs of the community are being met. I've talked to a lot of people who use the clerks who are frustrated with the hours. I agree with Mr. Camphouse from the standpoint that the office needs to be open when the customers have needs. So that's what I will use, and that's an outside perspective that I think will serve the residents in the community of Clermont County.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell, this question is for you, and it comes from a chamber member. You came very close to being endorsed by the Clermont County Republican Party. What would you say to a Democrat or independent voter who isn't sure if she should vote for a Republican candidate for this office?
So just to clarify the question, so the Republican endorsement was prior to any filing deadline for this position. This is a nonpartisan race, which means you're not running as a Democrat. Excuse me, you're not running as a Republican. The reason for that is there's no politics in the criminal justice system. So when this became available, I did seek the endorsement of the Republican Party to see if there was any traction for someone else in the race. So all three of us went in front of the Republican Central Committee to seek the endorsement. There were 3 rounds of voting, and I won all 3 rounds. But I didn't secure the endorsement at 60%. So that was enough encouragement for me to stay in the race and run as an independent or nonpartisan. So my entire career in law enforcement is totally apolitical. I didn't have any idea what I was getting myself into. It hasn't been as bad as I thought, but it still is apolitical. And when I'm in that office, politics will no longer be involved in it. Unfortunately, in order to get into the office, you have to run for the office in a political environment. So, once I'm there, I'll be the best protector of the public money, efficient way of running that office, just like I did at the sheriff's office, and keeping the public's interest in that system at the forefront of what I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, our next question was submitted by a member of the community, and it will be a group question. And for this, we'll start with you, Mr. Velardo. Do you believe in term limits in regards to local offices like the clerk of courts?
I get asked that a lot, and especially because the clerk's office is a 6-year term. So you have a long time to be beholden to the electors who elect you. So do I believe in term limits? Absolutely. I think it's more of a case-by-case basis, and to have the public engaged at the election process is a form of term limits. Now, we'll all argue sometimes that incumbent always has the edge, and so turnover is needed. So to say that the office needs term limits is something that I would not be a proponent of, as long as the office holder is being responsive to the public, and not just during the election year, not just during an election year when you're really in the spotlight, But in the case of the clerk's office, where it's a 6-year term, you need to be out there in the public, you need to be relevant, people should know who you are. In the case of the clerk's office, I would certainly advocate being active in all the police chiefs associations, so that they know who the clerk is, that they know who that person is, that they know who they need to have a question answered, who to go to. So, but to have specific term limits, I don't believe that's necessarily in the best interest. All the time, you can have some really good elected officials who, because of term limits, have to move on. With that being said, if you are a career politician and you're not doing your job, then you should be elected out. Thank you.
Mr. Camphouse?
That's a very broad stroke for the elected official to respond to. You know, a nonpartisan position like a judge or this position, if you're doing a good job and there are no complaints from the people that are electing you, then I don't see a need for a term. You know, if you were to speak of, you know, other races which don't affect this, I could see term limits being needed because there are certain politicians that get so ingrained and stay there forever and become ineffective, but they still get elected. So I don't really see the need in a nonpartisan position like this for term limits. No.
Mr. Rudd?
If you remember the history of the term limits, the reason that term limits were brought up were for representatives at the state level, the General Assembly and the House of Representatives. And in the state of Ohio, we passed term limits on both, except there's a problem called the US Constitution, which struck it down to Congress. And that was really everybody's focus, was like Mr. Byrd, Senator Byrd in West Virginia was the prime target of term limits. When you get down to the county level, you are dealing more with administrators than you are policy setters. And I think term limits by the public were more aimed at policy setters rather than administrators. I'm in my office every day. I'm very accessible if somebody wants to call me on the phone. I've met with the sheriff, the Union Township Police Chief, the Miami Township Police Chief, and the Goshen Police Chief within the last month. I'm there anytime any attorney wants to stop in and see me. I take complaint calls when they come in. I'm a very accessible public official, and I've always been a very accessible public official. My office may only be open 8 to 4:30, but I'm a 24/7 clerk. So if law enforcement ever needs me, they have my cell phone. And I've only had to call in a clerk twice this year for warrants for the sheriff's office after normal hours.
Thank you.
This next question is from Mr. Camphouse. You've mentioned how the criminal justice system is a very closed system. How would you go about making it more open?
So when I say a closed system, I mean the people that interact in that system interact with in a closed system. So I, for 27 years, associated with cops and attorneys, and that's who we interacted with. So we all know how the system works, and we all know how we would like the system to work for us. The general public doesn't understand that because they're not dealing with it on a daily, day-to-day basis. So when I refer to that, that's what I'm saying to people. Hey, don't take my word for it that there's a problem with the system. Go ask someone that's in the system if there's a problem, what it is, and if I'm a guy that's in a position that I can change those things and make it better. From a public perspective and a public records and a transparency, that's not what I'm referring to. I think, it could be better. All public records should be accessible easily from the clerk's office. That are public records. There are some that are not, but it would be a focus of mine to make sure that if someone wanted to search a database for how the clerk, how the judges are ruling in certain areas, Second Amendment, issues like that, that they should be able to search that. That's going to take a searchable database It has to be electronic. So that would be my intent to making it more transparent. And more transparent.
Okay, so we have a question submitted by the community. Mr. Red, given your experience in the clerk's office, what are the areas where you are still looking to grow and develop?
Everybody's gonna think I'm harping on the same thing, but once again, we go back to the new case management system that we're going to get. And to follow up with Paul's question or Paul's answer about searchable databases, that's exactly what we're looking at. That's why I'm calling it bleeding edge technology. Because when we scan in the new case management systems that we're looking at, it actually will use an OCR search. So if somebody is looking for Second Amendment and that exists in the document, those documents can be pulled up. Right now, we just have static images, but like I said, we have 95% of the court images out there on the public website since January of last year, 2020. But the big thing moving forward is the new case management system with all the new technologies that will come with it, the email, the update and the scanning, the ability to actually to search, scan public documents, just sort of, when you sit there and look at it, it just sort of blows your mind. So yeah, we're going to be on the bleeding edge when we get the new case management system up.
Mr. Velardo, you've talked about haphazard policies at municipal court. What specifically are those policies and how would you change them?
Well, we've heard a lot of information today about the new case management system, about accepting credit cards, about things that, in my opinion, should have been done long before 2021. It was talked about our case management system is 25 years old. That's unacceptable. And if you need to work harder with the commissioners to get the budget request, to get the money, that's what you need to do as the head of the clerk's office. The records request policy was only just recently updated back in July. I personally did a couple records requests, and I noticed that shortly after that, there's a new records request policy that wasn't there initially when I first started looking for information. So the access of information is vital. I think that those are things that should have been done long before 2021. Once elected, I will ensure that we're always on the leading edge, not just after 25 years of needing a new system. So we will always be out front. We will be the leader. We will make sure that we have the best technology, the access, and the service that our citizens of Clermont County deserve.
Well, believe it or not, we are 10 minutes ahead of schedule this evening. It's good you all are running for clerk because you're very efficient and timely. So we are going to start our closing statements for these. Each of you will be given 2 minutes, and we'll start with you, Mr. Velardo.
Thank you, first of all, again, for hosting us here tonight. Hopefully the residents and the people out there who will be watching this understand the importance of this office. The clerk's office doesn't get talked about a whole lot. There have not been a contested clerk rate for as long as I can remember. So it's important that people get out there and get informed. I've campaigned on modernization, being accessible, and being accountable to the public. One of the things we didn't get into great detail that I'll get into through my campaign once elected is the continual modernization and also pushing for an open checkbook. Open checkbook is something that we haven't talked about that should be readily accessible, that you need to work with the commissioners and the treasurer's office to make sure that the public knows what goes on inside that office. There's been talk about using the state of Ohio to collect the $2 million in revenue. I believe that if we'd have had a more modernized office that accepted credit cards much earlier, that figure would have been significantly lower and would have been already collected. We wouldn't have had to wait for the state to collect that money for us. So we need to be responsive to the citizens of Clermont County. We need to ensure that we are on the leading edge all the time, not just during election year. And I appreciate the support and hope everyone votes Falardo on November 2nd.
Thank you, Ralph. Mr. Camphouse?
Let me thank the chamber and the Clermont Sun again for hosting. Wasn't as bad as I thought. So when this came available and I was thinking about entering this race, I'm going to go big picture here. The men and women in law enforcement aren't the current problem with the criminal justice system. I think Clermont County has a very strong prosecutor, very strong judges, but the system itself is starting to have a back end problem where we're getting prosecutors and judges that aren't supporting law enforcement. And I thought to myself, where can I help the system? This came available and I said, I can either complain about it or I can do something about it. And I decided I was going to try and do something about it, throw my name in the race and try and make it better. It'll be my intention to bring the same skills that I had at the sheriff's office as a public agency that was serving the public to the office of the clerk and help support the citizens and the law enforcement community of this county to make the court system better and more supportive. And that's the reason I'm running. And again, thanks for hosting and have a good night.
Thanks, Paul. Mr. Rudd?
Once again, I'd like to thank the Chamber and the Clermont Sun for hosting this event. I think when the voters go to choose a candidate, what they're looking for is somebody who's honest, somebody who has integrity, somebody who has a reputation for hard work, and somebody who has a reputation for getting the job done. Last fall, I faced a major life decision on whether or not to run for re-election. And what made my mind up to run for re-election is when I had three people that I really respect, and that's the three judges I currently have, who came to me and encouraged me to run again. They realized, just like I do, that the major challenge facing the court right now is the implementation of a new case management system. I oversaw the implementation of a case management system in 1996 at the municipal court. It was the largest muni at the time that had not been computerized. It was a long, hot summer, but we got the job done. This isn't only the municipal court, which is getting a new case management system. This is the court system as a whole. So it's all the common police divisions in its muni. And the 25-year life cycle is pretty much a common life cycle because what we're looking at is an expenditure of at least $1.6 million. So it's not something you do every 2 to 5 years. What I'm looking forward to is using the knowledge and the experience that I not only learned in the implementation in 96, but everything that I've learned since regarding technology and bringing that to the implementation of the case management system, not only at Muni, but across the entire court system. I know my job, I do it well, I have the knowledge and experience to run the office effectively, efficiently, and economically, and I'm asking for the Clermont County to vote for me on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. And with that, we are out of time. Thank you all for tuning in this evening, and thank you to our candidates. We appreciate you taking the time off the campaign trail this evening to spend it with us, informing our members in the community about this important race. We will be posting this video online later, so others may view it. Big thanks to the Clermont Sun for co-moderating with us this evening. Brett, any final thoughts?
I would just thank the candidates again because I found it very informative and I hope that people listening found it informative and the future listeners. So thank you.
Absolutely. Our next candidate forum will actually be on Monday, October 18th with the candidates running for the Board of Trustees in Pierce Township. Ms. Heather, any final thoughts?
Thank you, gentlemen, for spending your evening with us, even if it was just for an hour. And we do want to remind our listeners, we're the Clermont County Chamber of Commerce. We cover the whole county. It's not our job to pick sides. We're here to educate. So our mission of the Clermont Chamber of Commerce is to make Clermont County the preferred place to locate, operate, and grow a successful company. Our job also is to educate not only our members, but our community. So it's really important you guys took the time tonight to help us with that mission. So I personally want to say thank you to each and every one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Until then, friendly reminder, election day is November second.
When is it?
November second,
It's coming up, guys.
coming up.
November
But
second.
these
Write
guys
that
cannot
down.
wait for that. to be
Write that
over.
down, gentlemen. November second.
Thanks again and have a great evening.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.